If you own a business, and you probably thought of the day someday when you're going to end up exiting your business. No matter how much we love the businesses, I love what I do and I've been doing it for over 2 decades. The reality is that we probably don't want to run it for all eternity, even if we could live forever, right? So exiting successfully, exiting well is usually a major goal for people. Now, you might want to try and pass this on to your family members. You might want to have employees take over your business, or you might find a third party that wants to take over your business. We provide excellent counseling and support to help people confidentially find that right buyer, either in all those strategies, and there are many other strategies as well. But we like to remind people of what's involved in selling a business. This is Brian Stevens with Legacy Venture Group, Legacy Business Sales and Valuations. Now, one of the things we pride ourselves on is we're very people-focused in what we do, regardless of the fact that your business is a thriving business and it's all about finance and numbers. It's also about people. We know that every business owner we've met and dealt with, has a family that they care about. They also care about the reputation and the legacy. That's why we call our company Legacy Venture Group, with your company in the very first part of our company by calling it the legacy, is referring to the clients we work with. And that quite often business owners would love to see some key employees, if not all the employees, stick around or have the opportunity to stick around, and also to care deeply about their customers and the people that they work with over the years. One of the key things is to help business buyers understand the value in your business. You might already intrinsically know it, but maybe your records are so hard to figure out that from an outside perspective, it's going to not strengthen the value as much as it could if we can correct and improve that, or help people understand how it's making money, how it's transferable, how it's a really great company and new owners can take over the business. To get the very best price for your business, it's important to not only build value, but be able to demonstrate that value to the public. Help people understand, hey, wow, I understand why it's so great out there. Sometimes you've got to go through the different process of financing your business. There are things called earnouts where people use seller financing to secure the sale of the business. That's become more and more popular over the years, especially with the high interest rates that are part of the SBA picture right now. But it's not the only way. And if you can fit your business in a way that's not only attractive to the buyer pool, but to the SBA lenders, then people can come in and acquire your business for only 10% of the asking price if it fits the criteria for the banks. And that means there's even more buyers that acquire a business, and they feel more confident if a bank has already given the blessing on that whole thing. So imagine whatever price your business is, that there are a lot more people that have 10% of that business price than the whole amount. As we said before, profits are essential, but without people, there is no business. We know that there are key criteria, and in fact, we have a program that we talk about that says start with the heart. What's important to you as you're exiting your business whenever you're ready to get out? Is it going to be, hey, what happens to my family? What happens to myself? What happens to my customers? What happens to my legacy in my company, etc.? And we find that extremely important. And by the way, you hope that it'll never happen, but sometimes things happen in a situation where you end up not being able to make the decision. Something happens to you as a buyer, or as a customer, as a business owner. And we found that business owners who have prepared their business for an exit plan are far more successful in helping their family manage the things that we just don't like to think about. I know that's not the dream that we all want to chat about, but we've seen it happen time and time again. I had a client years ago, back when I worked with the oil companies, who actually had a stroke. His wife spoke no English. He was out of commission for almost 9 months. He just couldn't work. It was a devastating situation. But during that time, the employees didn't know what to do. The wife didn't know what to do. And over time, they lost the entire business, something that he had worked on for 25 years in operation, and lost everything. Had to start all over again at age 58 or 59 or whatever he was at the time out there. And it was a devastating thing. Plus, he took a while to get healthy again before he could run the business. Having a plan, thinking through the process, getting things together, not only blesses you and your business, but also the family members and the loved ones. We find that a lot of business owners have a large amount of wealth tied to their business. That's why it's important to be able to prepare your business so you can exit on your terms when you're ready for the type of money that you're expecting and understand and plan for accordingly. So we find that 80 to 90%, this comes from the Exit Planning Institute, have business owners have their financial wealth locked up in their companies. And if you can't extract that, if you can't pull that money out, then that's a disappointing situation. You've spent years and years building this value in this wealth and company. You deserve to be able to pull it out. But sometimes it takes planning, and most often it takes a little bit of work ahead of time. And as I've said already before, nearly 80% of the businesses that go to market, especially those who aren't prepared, find out that they're unable to sell their business, and that's a sad thing in and of itself out there. It's important to be able to show profit. There are a couple different types of profit. There's a lot of different types of profit. If you think about the financial terms, there's a number at the bottom of your tax return or your profit and loss statement, and most of us will say, well, that isn't really what the owner's earning. That's not what I'm earning at the bottom of my tax return, right? So there's these two different terms that are common. You'll see it a lot of times. You'll see discretionary earnings. That's the amount of money that a business owner running the business herself or himself can take out of the business if they aren't writing off things like amortization, depreciation, maybe writing off interest, or even those little owner benefit things that we do. Sometimes it's meals out or special vehicles, or there's one-time expenses like, hey, I just remodeled the showroom after 20 years, or I spent $20,000 and did this super renewal of my website, or one-time income coming in that doesn't always count, right? So we had people had money for PPP many times for the situation when COVID came around. So you've got to make certain adjustments so that everybody agrees that that's the real earning of the business. So discretionary earnings is one person working in the business. EBITDA, or earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, that's where those numbers come in, those letters come into play when it says EBITDA, refers to the type of money that you make in the business after paying a manager to run the business. So, think about owning one. I use pizza restaurants all the time, even though we're not really trying to sell a pizza restaurant, but you can own one pizza restaurant, work in there 40, 50 hours a week and make this money. But if you like the industry and you buy 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pizza restaurants, then you're going to have to put managers in there. And the money now that you pull out of that is not discretionary earnings, it's EBITDA, okay? The bottom line, our taxes just don't show the earnings that we've got to, and we've got to be able to communicate to the buyer pool, hey, here's the type of money we're making. There's actually different formulas for that. And here you can see it on the screen. I can send you a copy of this whole thing if you'd like to see it. Or you can sit even down with your accountant and say, hey, help me determine my discretionary earnings or my EBITDA and my EBITDA, really. And the difference really is paying a manager. That salary for a manager is usually determined by what the industry standard. So you, as an owner, might replace your owner salary, but if I were to buy your business, I might want to say, well, what does it take to get another person to run your business? And it might not be what you yourself are paying yourself, but really what the market's paying for a manager in that particular industry, whatever it is. To show our earnings, we add back things like salary, depreciation, I've already gone through, but you also might have things that you've written off in your business because that's part of the perks of owning a business, right? So being able to show all that is a key thing out there. We might even have the one-time expenses, and I've already gone through that and share with you, like there might be a showroom that's remodeled, or a brand new website that's done, or sometimes a new piece of equipment that's expensive and you've expensed it during that first year out there. Being able to show that add back, and it's not cut and dry. There's not always a set of rules for everything, so understanding why that add back is done is important to understand it so that you can communicate that and it makes sense for everyone. All right, so we're just going through some of the different things out there. Just make sure your income is consistent as well. I mentioned the PPP money years before that. If you were along one of the coastal cities or around the Gulf Coast, there was the BP oil spill, and BP provided money to a lot of business owners. There was EIDL loans, and there's other things like money that coming in from lawsuits, etc. Being able to be specific, being consistent, and being able to communicate to the future buyers is important about helping them understand it. One of the things I encourage people to do is to begin the process of planning your exit a couple years in advance. Actually, you should plan today if you haven't already. Remember 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? If you haven't read it, by Stephen Covey, pick up the book and spend some time going through it. But one of the terms he refers to is begin with the end in mind. It's almost, in the minds of even my kids in school these days are learning the 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind. Having a plan in advance is important. If you wait until the last minute and try to make the last year look really good, you've got what is referred to as a hockey stick. All of a sudden, yeah, I'm not making much money, and you're really making money, but you're not showing on your records. And then, hey, this year before I sell, it goes up high. That doesn't build confidence. It makes the buyers confused, it makes them uncomfortable, and it certainly doesn't do anything the same way for the banks. So begin the process. Start today. Go get a valuation that not only just tells you a number or a range of numbers, but it's going to actually explore and look at the things that drive value, what we call the drivers of value, or value drivers, or value amplifiers. We use the term value amplifiers quite a bit, things that show value in your business. Okay, I hope this is useful to you. You can check us out at lvgadvisors.com. We have tons of articles, information, that sort of thing. You can even scan for the QR code on how to get the most for your business. This is part 1 of Showing Profit. We're going to do other videos in the future. Hopefully this has been useful to you. This is Brian Stevens with the Legacy Venture Group. You can find my contact information on the website at lvgadvisors.com, and we're here to help you. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.